Good morning, electricians and electrical wannabes. Someone asked me to talk about smart meters, which is why I'm crouching under my stairs. I'm not kneeling, look, because smoking is crouching for your ball bags. I don't fucking remember what it is, but yeah, I'm in here with my smart meter that I've got to tell you some facts about smart meters so you can disregard all that bollocks you read on the internet that says they're going to cook your children. Let's have a nose. First of all, let's get the main issue out of the way, yeah? Can that thing turn off my electricity? Absolutely it can. As far as I'm aware, that particular meter has a contactor in it that is normally closed, that has to be forced open. That can turn off my electricity. If you want to know more about the insides of a smart meter, not that particular one, look on YouTube at a guy called Big Clive. Just put in Big Clive disassemble smart meter and you'll find Big Clive disassembling the smart meter on there. Very much like that one. Are the electricity companies going to use that to turn off your electricity? Well, probably if you don't pay your bill. Well, if you don't pay your bill, get your fucking electricity. Oh, the fucking lights gone off now. I'd love to say that was comedy timing, but I've actually got IKEA Smart under the stairs and it turned. I didn't move, so the sensor turned off. Can they turn it off? Yes, they can. First of all, they could turn you off for not paying your bill, which I think you deserve. However, the jury's out whether they're actually allowed to deny you electricity and turn you off and not pay if you haven't paid your bill. But it is a possibility they could do that. The other possibility is that if the grid was struggling in your area for power, they could turn you off to save the grid. Therefore, by turning you off for a small amount of time, till the grid retained its normal parameters that it runs on, that would save you being off for a long time if, for example, the local substation tripped out or blew up, something like that. So they're the two options I see for them controlling it, as in on and off. So it can turn you off. What do you get out of it? Well, one thing you get out of it is half-hour metering. So every half an hour, that reads your meter. So every half an hour of every single day, it reports back to its owner how much electricity you have used. This is different to the old traditional mechanical meter where every 3 months, they'd either come and look at the number on it or you give them the number off it. Effectively, being charged for 3 months electricity in a wanna. Whereas this bad boy is charging for electricity per half an hour. So in my case, I get charged 30 pence most half an hours of a day. And between 12:30 and 4:30 in the morning on my particular tariff, I get charged 9 pence an half hour, 9 pence a kilowatt in that half-hour window. This is because electricity is becoming much more of a commodity. In the good old days, for fuck's sake. So in the good old days, electricity was made in coal-fired power stations, maybe gas, maybe nuclear. It all rolled down and into your house, and you got charged at the cost of producing electricity, the cost of transmitting electricity, the cost of distributing electricity, and the profit that they needed to put onto all those three things, yeah? And that was it. Nowadays, in my particular case, I am taking electricity from all sorts of sources, but also, not really, but I can do, my solar and my battery can pump it back. So they might need to pay me, I might need to pay them, they might need to pay me a higher rate or a lower rate, I might need to pay them a higher and lower rate. So you can see why, really, the meter needs to be smart, it needs to be knows what's going in what direction and at what time, so it can bill accordingly to me or my supplier. Now, that's the sensible advice from an electrical engineer. That's why it's looking at what you're doing, yeah, because it wants to know what kind of electricity you're using. However, there are demented bellends out there on the internet that believe that this thing is spying on you, right? Well, for a start, if you're on the internet on YouTube, you are using a computer or probably a smartphone, right? If you're walking around with a fucking iPhone or an Android or some Chinese fucking phone in your pocket and you think that's spying on you, you need to get a grip of yourself. That can read your electricity. I could use the data of that to work out when you're in. I could probably use electricity of that to work out when you're having a cup of tea. However, your smartphone knows exactly what you're doing all the fucking time and what kind of midget porn you're into. So if you're one of them people that think people are spying on you with it, they sort of are. Yeah, they're trying to work out what the average family of four use in a day and when they use it. However, they are not. So back in the good old days, they would fit meter logging equipment, data logging equipment into the house of a family of four, a family of two, a family of three, an older person, a younger person, and they would build up what they call customer profiles and how much energy they use. Nowadays, they get a much better customer profile because they're basically monitoring everyone's usage. And they can work out from the electrical register how many people are in your house and how much energy you use, which enables them to do things like build the grid, maintain the grid, work out the cheapest way of putting in new connections, working out what cables need replaced in what streets and all that kind of stuff, yeah? It's basically just business data. They're not trying to hunt you down and find out when you buy tampons or how many cans of Stanley you buy from the local shop. And anyone that says otherwise is just a dithering bellend, yeah? Like I say, you've got mobile phones now, you don't need to worry about it. Everyone's watching you all the time, so don't worry about your smart meter. Because at the end of the day, most data points on anything on this electric meter, on a gas meter, can be used to work out stuff about you. So here's the gist. It's a meter, like the old meter, but every half an hour, it writes the details to a memory. So they get chucked onto a memory. So it saves a half hour, then the next half hour, then the next half hour, then the next half hour. It saves those all up into what we call a packet in memory, and then it will send its data via radio or mobile phone, depending on where you are in the country, depending on whether you're on SMETS 1, which is the first smart protocol, or SMETS 2, which is the newest smart protocol, and it will send that packet to a collector. That collector will then respond and say, I've got your packet. At that point, this meter will erase the data it's got in it and start again. That packet then goes off to a centralised computer called an API. They will then put that packet of data in a little slot in that computer associated with your MPAN number, which is the number on your meter, so that you and them can look at that data for that half-hourly meter readings. So all that data is then put on the computer. You can access it via an API by using your user's app. For example, I've got the Octopus app. There's also a better app, a third-party app called octo-aid that I use. That can go and get all the data Octopus have got on me and give it all to me. And I successfully used that data to find out that the clock was wrong in this and they was mischarging me. So it's not like they keep anything from you. Personally, the smart meter, I like it. I prefer it. I like to see what I'm using every half an hour so I can make my energy usage better. But where are we going in the future? Because at the minute, I've got on-peak and off-peak. And when I've changed from an economy 7 metre, 7 hours of cheap electricity, I moved to this one that only gave me 4 hours of cheap electricity. So where's this smart stuff going in the future? Very good chance that these will get used for peak pricing. That's where the electricity company will send you a text message or put on their website going, hey, electricity tonight from 6 till 7 is going to be expensive. Why don't you try and use it at an alternative time when it's cheaper? They will also message you go, hey, at the minute we've got too much electricity. Why don't you use some of it? Because it's really, really cheap. This will enable people with smart homes like me who've got batteries and solar to do better things with it. What they'll probably do is enable smart pricing for people who want it, as Octopus are already rolling out, and saying, hey, electricity is cheaper now than it will be later. Or it's cheaper tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Why don't you charge your car your battery? Octopus are doing that right now to make the best use of the grid and their power supplies. They will eventually maybe roll that out to normal households, but there's plenty of renewable people who've got batteries and solar. They will renew that onto first. But, as I've said, it's like the stock exchange electricity now. So at certain times, electricity is cheap, and at certain times, electricity is expensive. If, for example, right now, 4 power stations fell offline, there's a good chance there'd be blackouts. The alternative to those blackouts is to make the electricity expensive during that time so it's not used. So there's a little bit of worry in that. Is there a problem that if there's not enough power stations that they'll just pump the price up? Well, that's going to happen anyway. We've seen that happen in the last 2 years. Should I worry about having a smart meter? No, I don't think you should. Should you rush out and get one fitted? Not really. Some people try and have them. Certainly, if you want any kind of smart tariff, if you've got an EV car, there are benefits. I'm getting the electricity on that cheaper than I was on a normal meter. On my normal night and day meter, I was paying 12.5p. I'm now paying 9p. So, hopefully I've covered everything. If anyone's got any questions, stick them in the box. I'm going to stick them on the next slide and I'll try and answer them. But hopefully that covers all the main points of smart meters and that. They're not smelling you. They're not looking at your brain. They're not trying to eat your children. They're just trying to monitor your electricity every half an hour. Also on the communications front, that can communicate via radio or mobile phone. SMETS 1 or SMETS 2, which you can look at on the line, yeah? So every night that sends a packet of data off to the electricity board. However, Octopus have brought out this, which is called a Home Mini, and this connects to my local Wi-Fi network, and all it does is it can communicate with that meter straight away, and that is sending live data to Octopus's API, so they can monitor my usage much more effectively with that box. They don't reward me for this at the minute, or give me any benefits for it at the minute. It uses a very small amount of power, but I'm hoping in the future they'll start saying things like, oh, tonight at 5 o'clock there's an hour of cheap electricity, and I'll be able to make my battery utilise it, and by having this and the smart meter, I'll be more useful to them to sell cheap electricity to. So there are things like this coming online where the communications protocols get phased out every few years. So at the moment they're phasing out 3G, which is a pain in the arse. So that means every fucking 10 years when they phase out 3G, or when they're phasing out 3G now, they've got to go and change all the SIM cards in these devices. They've got 3G ones. But I think this is basically a charge to say, hey, rather than us having a massively overpriced, expensive network, why don't you use your local Wi-Fi via a dongle like this to send us your meter readings? That keeps the cost down for electricity companies, and they can offer you deals like cheap electricity and stuff like that. There's so much to go at, but when you've got communications, and when you've got data, and when you've got the time, and when you've got the energy and all that, there's so many things they're going to be able to do with it that can make it cheaper for me or better for them. And they're going to have to scratch my back to scratch theirs, if you know what I mean. So I've got one. Don't rush out and buy one, but are they going to cut your brains? No. Well, I hope not. So if you've got any questions, stick them in that box. I'll try and answer them. A lot of them are available online, but let's share it with everyone. Also, if you do think smart meters are bad and you think they're going to eat your brains and all that, please tell me why. I'm genuinely interested. It's a very one-sided opinion of mine. I've looked into it. I understand the communication, the meter and everything. I just love to know why you think they're bad, genuinely. I'm not going to start taking the piss out of you saying you need to get tin for that. I'd just love to know why you think they're bad, so let me know that as well. How could I forget about this? How did I miss this out of my main video? Of course, smart meters, number one things is they tell their health to their owner. So, has that little cover been removed? Yep, it'll report that. Has the main cover been removed? Yep, it'll report that. Has the power been lost? Yep, it will report that. It reports fucking everything to its paymaster. That is one of the main reasons of having smart meters, is what I think the electricity companies call revenue losses. So yeah, it will tell its owner that it's been thing. In fact, it doesn't actually tell its owner. A lot of the time, they will have what's called a heartbeat. It will send a signal saying, I'm okay. And if that signal is lost, you know it's not okay. I've pulled a main fuse before because a board was on fire, and the lecky board ran out pretty quickly. So yeah, they don't mess around. If it's in a really bad area, a trampy area, where they know they're getting robbed, they'll be straight out to have a look. The smart meter is owned by a separate company to the main fuse, the cutout as I would refer to it. That is then connected by a set of tails called the meter tails to the meter, and from the meter tail there are the consumer's tails to an isolator where you put your tails. So it won't tell you that the main fuse has been pulled. There is no connection between the metering device and the main fuse. However, as said previously, it will know if the power's been lost. So effectively yes, but effectively no, because that's in a different enclosure. But yeah, same thing I would say. You'll be paying for it. It'll be on your side of the measurement, whatever the measurement is. So if it's CTs or if it's mechanical, however it chugs round, it doesn't chug round with magic. It needs some energy to move it round. And always on meters, that has been your responsibility to pay for. That'll be buried in their terms and conditions that you pay for that, and you're still paying for it now. You're paying a little bit more with the smart meter because it's got an LCD display, some electronics in there, some communications devices, so you're paying for it. On the flip side of that, the electricity companies probably run an entire whole massive gas power station just to account for losses in the system through things like vibration, noise and heat losses and buzzing transformers. So you're not doing too bad. Fucking hell, that is a good question. So, your smart meter is bidirectional. The grid is bidirectional. Oh my God, how's that working? I'm guessing. Oh, well, I suppose it's like a buzz bar, isn't it? That effectively your street of cables is a buzz bar. Some people are taking off it. Some people could put on it. If more people are trying to take off it, I don't fucking know. Why am I trying to make it up on the fly? I need to look into that. I don't think it uses the high voltage. I just think it's that it's there. Energy is like a pot waiting to have things put in or taken out of it. I don't think it pushes it as a voltage, but it does push it out or lets it flow out. Because pushing it out and just letting it be dragged out or flow out naturally, different things, that's probably a video in itself. I'll cover that. I quite like that. That is a fucking fantastic question by someone who's not named in that poster, but I'll find out. Yeah, once you've got a smart meter, that's it. There's no going back to all analogue meters. At least I don't think there is. I've never heard of it happening. Once it's in and it's connected to the electricity supply, that's how it stays. Your isolator will be on your side. That meter will sit there telling its owner that it's still there and it's okay for the rest of its serviceable life, which, to be honest, going on how the SMETS 1 and SMETS 2 systems are going, might not be anywhere near as long as the mechanical meters.